so Chapter 7, Chemistry, Practice Test. I'm not planning to read you all 54 of those. You could check the 6 and 7B video from yesterday when we did this as a quiz. But if you needed one or two, or a reminder of where the bonus was, I could fill you in on some small details. Anybody needs something about what to do in those 54 where there's a true perfection available at 57. Kinds. Next page, I'm not planning to do all of this, but I will do the top. 55's group we haven't seen for a little while, so those are back from last test. Was valence electrons 8, noble gases, lose with metals and positive, then gain with non-metals and negative. And I wasn't planning to read all of these compounds because there's a video where we did all of these compounds already, although they are in a different order. If you want me to read through the fact matches, I could do that if that's helpful or whatever.
They are in a different order.
Are they in the same order?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they're in the same order, then all the better.
They're in the same order.
Okay. Anything
I
there?
just copied them.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay. Then the ions, I'm not really planning to read all of the ions because we've been there, done that. But if you need anything there, I can do it. Just make sure you remember there's how many with Roman numerals?
5.
5. There's -3s. There's only 1 -2s.
6.
There's 6. 2 with the element
Hydrogen.
It's the sulfur ones.
the sulfur ones,
Sulfur, sulfite, carbonate,
the carbon ones,
oxalate, and
Di-
it's
Chromate.
and the chromium ones. Positive one was only 1, which was ammonium, and then almost everybody had a -1 charge, or you used your periodic table. Question about any of those? You want me to run through any of that or spell any of that? Okay. Then problems is our main focus, so here we go. 1 to 4 is based off the pattern that was established by hypochlorite versus chlorite versus chlorate versus perchlorate. But what I'm doing is I'm switching that for another thing from row 7A, 17, which those are called halogens. So I just pick a different halogen and have you play. So the first one is hypoiodite, Hypoiodite. Then regular iodite, then we upgrade to iodate, and then we go PER, per iodate. Question about how that game is played. Then from 5 to 16, you want to have a periodic table handy because you want to bust out your prefix knowledge if I use what choices?
the non-metals.
2 nonmetals, and the nonmetals exist on the table to the right. So if I'm doing 2 things from the right, we need to break out those prefixes. If there's any metal involved, which is on the left, then we're just doing the names with no prefixes. So first one, mercury is a metal. Mercury though has Roman numerals that we want to memorize. This one is mercury Roman numeral 2 bromide. I would highly recommend you just use the stock system. So you would be correct if you break out the mercuric title, but I don't know why you would do that. If you were already having to think about the charges to get the 2 charge, I don't see why you wouldn't just throw down that Roman numeral 2 and keep your life simple. But mercury Roman numeral 2 bromide is a winner. Stepping to the right, that's copper Roman numeral 1 carbonate. It's a Roman numeral 1 because carbonate has a charge of 2, and copper has to then have a charge of 2 total, but the subscript of 2 means that 2 coppers give you a charge of 2. That is a charge of 1 per copper, so copper Roman numeral 1. Third one, tin is a metal. Tin is a Roman numeral 2 here. Fluoride is FLUORIDE. It's tin Roman numeral 2 because fluoride has a charge of 1. There's a subscript of 2, so charge total of 2 on fluorine, and tin just has to match that 2. Question about top layer of 3. Okay, C and O are both nonmetals, so we need to break out the prefixes. That's carbon monoxide. Aluminum is a metal, so this one's going to be aluminum dichromate, and we have no Roman numerals necessary because, hooray, we don't need them on anything other than the 5 we memorized. Phosphorus and sulfur are both nonmetals, so we need our prefixes. It's diphosphorus pentasulfide. Mercury, we need to think through charges because there's Roman numerals there, but mercury is a metal at least. It's mercury chloride, and it's a charge of 1 per, so Roman numeral 1 there. Lithium is a metal, so lithium sulfite is just the name there. Iron is a metal, need the Roman numeral. It's iron, Roman numeral 2, nitrite. Strontium is a metal, so just call it strontium oxide. Sulfur is a nonmetal, so break out the prefixes, sulfur dioxide. And then phosphorus is a nonmetal again, like we had earlier a couple questions ago. So prefixes, that's tetraphosphorus hex oxide. I can give you more details than what I gave in that overview, but again, if the first element's a metal, just name it.
What
If
was
the first element's a non-metal, break out the prefixes.
What was the last one?
Last one is tetraphosphorus hex oxide. Anybody need help with the math on the Roman numeral generation for the stock system or anything? Okay. Then we go in reverse. So calcium oxide is big C, little a with an O. Those have the same charges using the periodic table, so you need no subscripts. Working to the right, it's Hg2, because that's what you have to write for mercury 1. And then it's Cl, also with a little 2, because we need 2 of them to balance it out. And even though it's not the simplest whole number ratio, we're just going to live with that as Hg2Cl2, because the mercury 1 made us do that. Magnesium is Mg, big M, little g. And then cyanide doesn't have the right charge, so we need to wrap up in parentheses, big C, big N. And after the parentheses, cut a little 2 subscript. Di breaks out our prefixes, so it's N2O. Silver, Ag, doesn't have the right charge for phosphate, so it's Ag3PO4. Mercury is Hg without a little subscript. Bromine doesn't have the right charge for that, so we go Br2 for balance charges. Anybody need any help with explanation of swapsies on the charges to create subscripts when they're not matching each other naturally? Some years people struggle with that. We don't seem to me like we're in that boat this year. It seems like you took to that pretty naturally. I think it also helped this chapter that I made you do the homework every day by establishing the 20-point system. Otherwise, that might have been a bigger issue. Flipping the page, Tribe, it's prefix time, so just obey the prefixes. It's SO3. When you're doing the prefixes, you're not doing anything with charges. Lithium is a metal, so we are doing stuff with charges. Lithium doesn't have the right charge for sulfite, so it's Li2 with SO3. Li2, SO3. Lithium and iodine are a natural match, so it's big L, little I, and then a big I. Di, prefix time, so just fire it. Charges don't matter. It's N2O5. Tetra is a prefix, so just fire away again. It's P4O6. Charges don't matter. Aluminum is a metal, so charges matter. Aluminum is not matching sulfate, so we end up with subscripts on both things because aluminum is a 3, right? And sulfate is a 2. So we end up with Al2, and then in parentheses SO4, and after the parentheses wrap, then a 3. Anybody need help to 31? 29's group, binary acids are easier, I think. How many of these are binary? Just one. Just the the first one. So anything that's binary starts with hydro and ends in ic. So this is hydrochloric. Question about first one being hydrochloric. Okay, let me skip down to 33's group. In 33's line, how many of those are binary?
2.
2. Which ones?
The first and last.
First and last, because they start with hydro. So let's do that while our mind is on binary acids. Hydro, all acids start with
H.
H, and then iodine, just put I. Think about the charges.
They're both one.
They're both ones, so high, HI. So, sulfuric is based on sulfur, so we're going HS, but do the charges work?
No.
No, so to make a match,
H2.
H2S. So in 33, HI, last one was H2S, and we're handled on all the binary acids. Question on those? Then the other ones, we have to just know the names of the ions again. And if it ended in 8 on the ion page, we're trading ATE in for IC. And we trade ITE in for OUS. So what is C2O4 called? C2O4 is ox what? Oxalate. So we're going to make that oxalic. OXALIC. BrO3 is not on our memory page, but that's a takeoff on the chlorine halogen family, like what we did on 1 to 4. So what is that BrO3? That's bromate. So we're going to retitle it as an acid,
Bromic.
bromic, BrOMIC. ClO. What is ClO on our memory?
Hypo.
Hypochlorite.
Chlorite.
So we're going to go hypochlorous. HYPOCHLOROUS. Question 29 to 32.
Should we put acid after all of those?
I
or
don't
just-
care.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't care if you say acid.
Okay.
Anything on 32's line? Okay, so then we reverse modes. Nitric, trade in for nitrate. Nitrate is
NO3.
NO3. In front of that, throw
H.
H and then hope for agreement. Do the charges match? Yeah, so walk away. HNO3. Sulfuric, trade in for sulfate. Sulfate is
SO4.
SO4.
And it doesn't, H has to be 2.
H has to be 2 to balance charges. And H2SO4 is one you're already memorizing on another part of the test, so maybe that isn't even necessary to do by the rules. Maybe you just know H2SO4. Question on the 36 line. That's the page that usually haunts people the most, the acid naming, because it's recent, you haven't had as much of a run at that. Sometimes people are mad. We okay there? Then the last group should be, in my opinion, the easiest group. I think the bases are easiest to spot. How do you spot a base? The OH at the end. So how many bases do you have? Just one. So there's one base, it's the 6th one, has an OH at the end, that's it. I would think the test might have more bases than one, but maybe not, I don't know. I'm surprised I only did one base there. Then I think the acids are the second easiest ones to spot.
They have a hydrogen.
They have a hydrogen out front. So how many acids?
3.
3. So the first one of the first line, the first one of the bottom line, and the third one of the bottom line all start with H's, so those are all acids. And then everything else is salt. So there's 4 salts, the other 3 across the top, and then the one at the bottom. So across the top line it would be an A before you have SSS. The bottom line has ABAS. Anybody need me to explain anything beyond what I already did, more or in a different way or anything? So weekend comes and then tests arrive. So Monday is just the vocab life of this, which would be the first 2 pages for Beck from Beck. And then the problems is on Christmas Eve on the 23rd for us on our present calendar. The problems, I think, are 3 points apiece, so that's a 132. And then the other test is like a 175, I believe, on the book test. That's a wrap on that.